She's had a bad habit of smoking marijuana.
Alright. For Judging Judy. Alright.
Hey, it's you! Thanks for listening to the Judging Judy podcast, the only podcast that turns the tables on America's favorite TV judge. As always, we'll do a play-by-play of a case from the Judge Judy archives, and I'll have a verdict on Judy's conduct during the episode, plus some other nonsense. But first we have to go back to our long-standing one-sided feud with another podcast you might have heard about, Smartless. One of Smartless's well-coiffed talking heads, Jason Bateman, has a new cash grab coming out called Zootopia 2. No one needed a sequel. Few people wanted a sequel, but fine. We've got a sequel and it's coming out right around the same time as this episode of Judging Judy. There are lots of good people in the cast, I admit that. Fortune Feimster, Andy Samberg, Quinta Brunson, Stephanie Beatrice, and then there's Jason Bateman. Look, see the movie, don't see the movie, I don't care. I just have one thing to say to Jason about this Zootopia 2. You better not redo the sloth in the DMV scene again. It was good once. It was even great once, but if you do it again, you will ruin it forever. The original too, you'll ruin the original and the new one. I know that I should address this demand to the movie's writers, or the producers, or the director, but none of them have a podcast that I'm feuding with, so I'll have to settle for Jason Bateman. And trust me, that's not the first time those words have been spoken. Anyway, let's go to this week's episode. It originally aired on October 23rd, 1996. I've got a good feeling you know exactly what happened on October 22nd, 1996, and October 24th, 1996, but that you might be a little fuzzy on the 23rd. That's why I've called in my friend and colleague, Professor Wikipedia. The Atlanta Braves and New York Yankees played in Game 4 of the World Series. Although the Braves were up 6 runs after the 5th inning, the Yankees ended up scoring 3 runs in both the 6th and the 8th innings and eventually won the game 8-6. I promise that's the most bored you'll be for the rest of this episode. The 13th episode of the show Arthur aired. The episode was called So Long Spanky. The show is about an anthropomorphic aardvark and it aired for 25 seasons for a total of 253 episodes. Although none of those episodes could possibly have had a better name than So Long Spanky. Also on October 23rd, 1996, Nakia Cockatoo was born. Nakia had a largely unremarkable career with Geelong and the Brisbane Lions in the Australian Football League. But he had a largely remarkable name. Nakia Cockatoo, 3 of his uncles, David, Che, and Donald Cockatoo, also played in the AFL, meaning there was a 3-way tie for the second best name ever in the AFL behind Nakia Cockatoo. Good work, Professor Wikipedia. I'm beginning to think that degree in pots and pans was worth it. Now let's see what was on the front page of the Granite City Journal on October 23rd, 1996. All right, let's see. First, the big headline, businesses annexed, pontoon beach officials oppose move. That's not very interesting. School meals teach ABCs to nourish minds and bodies. I guess that could be interesting, but I'd have to go all the way to page 1C, and we're only supposed to be looking at the front page. Wait, let's see. Let me look here on the bottom of the front page. It's the Great Cruise Giveaway. Station Casino St. Charles is giving away 90 Caribbean cruises and over $20,000 over 15 days. That's incredible. And it says this scan of the newspaper from 29 years ago here. It says, I mean, even though I'm reading on the internet, it says that this scan could be the winner. I've got to figure out some way to cut this out of my screen so I can turn it in for a ticket for the giveaway. In the meantime, let's see what the box office looked like on 10/23/96. To be honest, I'm a little miffed. Usually IMDb has the top 10 or at least the top 3 movies for a given day. This time, I've only got the box office winner. It was Independence Day. Normally, I try to do some kind of funny bit here, but look, IMDb, they couldn't put the work into it, so why should I? I'll just grab something easy from Wikipedia. Let's see. Independence Day was originally scheduled to air on Fox on September 16th, 2001, but was canceled following the September 11th attacks. Fox replaced Independence Day with a repeat airing of There's Something About Mary. So what they're saying is that aliens attacking the White House, bad. Brett Favre and semen in the hair, good. That's enough. Let's get to today's cases.
15 to 20 times. I had lumps all over my head.
Among places you don't want to get lumps, the head has to be at least number 2 or 3.
I got taken away in an ambulance, Ray.
Note to Ray, saying something is untrue doesn't necessarily mean it's untrue, even if you say it 4 or 5 times.
Somebody had an argument with your boyfriend.
She had an argument with my boyfriend. No.
Where's the voiceover, Jerry? I'm really missing it here. I feel like it would be something like, it's a classic case of he said, she said between these two so-called friends.
Because he broke your window.
And now their friendship has shattered.
Hey! Ladies.
Enough teasing, let's get to the courtroom.
April Butler says she loved Ray Torres.
You know a line like this is going to be followed in short order by a but. And that but is going to be something bad.
But then he started to beat her.
And there we are. Ray looks a little like John Stamos in the Full House era or Yanni in the 90s, except, insofar as I know, neither of those two guys has been accused of beating April Butler. It must be a season 1 thing, but the plaintiff and the defendant's tables are very, very close. Maybe it was a smaller set. They could easily link arms. If the situation warranted, and I can't imagine when it would, they could easily high five or even low five. That's how close they are.
It's a little cramped.
The two of you were involved in a long and tumultuous relationship.
On account of the 3 kids they have together, I would add fruitful. Long, tumultuous, and fruitful. Busy, prolific.
And that relationship finally ended after there was an assault. You were injured.
If there's one thing keeping the passive voice alive, it's court cases. Along with the assault and injuries that happened to April, she also says her property was destroyed.
You ruined it.
Ray hops in right away to have his say, a move that in later seasons would be grounds for Judge Judy to have an absolute temper tantrum. Season 20, season 12 even, she'd be having an absolute temper tantrum. Oh, why is your hair so long? How much money do you make? Oh, what do you mean the only pancakes you eat are blueberry? Fruit don't belong in pancakes. You want fruit in your pancakes? You make them yourself in your own courtroom, but not in my courtroom, Buster.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm not sure about what she's claiming I destroyed as far as her property.
Just behave, okay?
Well, you admit you assaulted her, sir.
I expected some kind of hemming and hawing, questions about what does or does not constitute assault, but no, Ray admits he assaulted her. There's something to be said for honesty, I guess. For a domestic abuser, at least Ray's honest. Does it make a scumbag less of a scumbag if he's an honest scumbag? No.
Absolutely not.
No way!
Not at all.
No, I don't think it does. We learn that the assault is being handled in the criminal courts, though Ray hasn't yet had his trial. Though I also have to imagine that admitting it on Judge Judy that he assaulted April did not help him in his case. Judy wants to hear about when the two of them met, a question much more suited for a couple's date at Fuddruckers over an ostrich burger or two, but April has an interjection of her own.
Didn't you go in and claim guilty and you start your time tomorrow?
We can forgive April for not knowing the court parlance, but we cannot abide by these constant interruptions. This isn't the April and Ray show. You want your own show? Fine. You go to law school. You serve as a family court judge for a dozen years. You get your own personal bailiff. But until then, this is Judge Judy, not Judges April and Ray. You will speak when and only when you are spoken to.
I pleaded
6
no
months.
contest, and that trial will be held tomorrow.
Do you think Ray's lawyer, do you think that he thought it was a good idea for him to go on Judge Judy and admit he assaulted April the day before he's set to go to a real court and plead no contest for the same charge? Because I don't think that's a good idea. Now, mind you, I'm not a lawyer. I didn't go to law school. Did very well in the LSATs, didn't go to law school. But I happen to have someone right here who did go to law school.
Just a second. You pleaded no contest, which means that you pled guilty, sir.
Well, basically...
Was basically the limp dick milquetoast domestic abuser 1990s version of well, actually?
Hey, is that really necessary?
Ray tries to wriggle his way into saying it was part of a plea bargain with the DA, but Judy isn't interested in Ray's lukewarm verbal acrobatics.
Mr. Torres, I'm very smart.
I am too smart. I am too smart.
With all due respect to Judy, who I do believe is very smart, you could be very dumb and still know what's going on here. Judy gives us a quick primer. A no contest plea means, in effect, a guilty plea and that there is no trial. Ray was doing a little lying by omission and a little regular old-fashioned lying too. Ray clarifies that he hasn't been sentenced yet, that he misunderstood when he said there hadn't been a trial. He does, however, already know that his sentence will include jail time, a fine, and restitution.
How much jail time?
160 days, according to Ray, or 160 days more than Donald Trump has so far spent in prison.
180 and 6 months, 5 years probation.
Not nearly enough.
Oh, thank you for the correction. 180 days, or 180 days more than either Donald Trump or the rapist formerly known as Prince Andrew have spent in prison. Ray says that he neither understands nor knows what kind of restitution he was ordered to pay. He has the vibes of a guy who sits in the parking lot at a beach, complaining about how the waves aren't like they used to be, even though he doesn't own and has never owned a surfboard. I'm sorry if that's a very, very specific description. But all you have to do is go to Doheny Beach in Dana Point, California, and you will find hordes and hordes of Ray types wearing flat-brimmed caps knocking back tall boys of Monster Energy drink.
Oh, it's you. I don't like you.
Judy asks him to confirm that the punishment was doled out specifically for assaulting April, and he replies,
Basically, yes.
basically yes, and well, basically pair well together, like a Del Taco burrito and a hit from your friend's Whip-It. Ray and April had been living together with their 3 kids for about a year.
And April 15th, he came in and said I had to move out and be gone that day.
Ray, according to April, followed that up by throwing paint onto her couches and by throwing her clothes into the paint, suggesting that what Ray lacked in class and common decency, he made up for by having lots and lots of paint. When Ray starts to object, April says she has a police report from that day, though Judy says it was a report merely alleging the damage. The report itself isn't proof that Ray was the one who did the damage. For all we know, the paint dumped itself onto the couch. Oh, excuse me, I gotta remember, passive voice. The couch was dumped on by the paint. There we go.
Now you got it.
April says the damage totaled $1,500, though she says it in a way that suggests she made that number up entirely. I'm not saying the couch wasn't damaged or that he didn't do it, but it doesn't sound like April paid $1,500 to get the couch clean or had to spend $1,500 on a new couch. She just kind of says it in a way that suggests that she'd like to get $1,500 for what he did.
And
I did not throw the paint on the couch.
Ray said that it was an accident that occurred when they were moving the couches out of the house.
She left an open can in the middle
Not
of the
true.
room.
Kind of a strange place.
In your complaint, you do allege that the spilling of the paint can was an accident.
Oh.
But then he threw my clothes into the paint to
Your Honor,
absorb
that's
it.
not.
A most unconventional way to dry paint. So, okay, April has pretty much lost all credibility, and that's usually a bad thing.
And it was all my brand new clothes my sister just bought me.
I'm a little worried that April might enter into a kind of negative credibility state where I not only don't believe what she's saying, but I believe the exact opposite. He removed her old clothes from the paint. He dyed the couch white. They had -3 kids. Judy asks what the argument was about, the one that precipitated this whole kerfuffle.
Because I was gone to the valley to take my sister to the airport too long.
2 quick notes here. First, this talk of the valley convinces me that Ray probably didn't sit in a parking lot in Dana Point complaining about the waves. It was probably Dockweiler Beach or maybe Palos Verde. Second point, April's credibility is back. I don't know how it was in 1996, but in 2025, you could spend days just trying to get around that little corkscrew off the 105 onto Sepulveda so you can get into the airport. I've spent hours of my life, tears running down my face, staring at that giant Korean Air building off the side there, just hoping we might inch a little closer. All the while, my Uber driver tells me about how it's not 5G or chemtrails or even seed oils you've got to worry about. It's the fact that they've got us using unleaded oil. God put lead in it for a reason, he's yelling at me while I question if it's worth it to just jump out of the car and run along the shoulder with all my bags. And we had no right to think of ourselves better than him by taking that lead out. Ray laughs at the idea that this whole LAX thing was the source of their feud. But here's the thing, Ray, there's nothing funny about driving to or from LAX. His version of the story meanders boringly. He talks about escrow and some other nonsense until he stumbles upon this response.
I assumed she was using drugs that day.
Drugs are bad, okay?
Ray's going for pay dirt with this one. It's a big gamble. I think he's got to have something to back it up. Otherwise, Judy's just going to call him out for lying.
Just to say, what made you assume she was using drugs that day?
There are any number of good indications of drug use, mind you. Maybe he saw a crack pipe. If she had, say, a needle in her arm. If she were pounding up pills like as if she were making some kind of tableside stimulant guacamole. If Ray is going to make this claim, he ought to have some kind of strong, if not evidence, then a sign, a hint, a big flashing arrow pointing directly at April.
She's had a bad habit of smoking marijuana.
The fact that this guy This guy, the stone surfer himself, the guy who couldn't pass a pee test to save his life, the guy who knows weed like Paul Giamatti's annoying character knew wine in that horrible movie Sideways. This is the guy that has the gall to object to someone smoking marijuana. You're guilty, Ray. I don't care what the charge is. I don't care what you did or what you didn't do. You're guilty.
This is such a bold move.
It's clever. It's a really bold move.
Yes, that's what I said.
I mean, listen to his voice. I think he's managing to toke up while he speaks. Ray goes on to say that they were both trying to solve their problems and that her smoking weed wasn't helping. I've got a feeling that hitting her to a degree that you had to plead down to 6 months in jail also wasn't an effective way of solving your problems, Ray.
She says that you were using drugs. Were you using drugs, sir?
Was he using drugs? Was he... Judy, you're talking to the guy who was the understudy for both Cheech and Chong. The guy who knew the difference between various strains of weed before he knew his times tables. Yes, Judy, he did drugs. He does drugs. He will do drugs.
Forever.
We were both using drugs.
Duh.
What kind of drugs were you both using?
This is an infinitely more interesting question, and one I have no faith in Ray answering honestly. He admits, very haltingly, that they smoke marijuana in the house. It's the same way you might tell your dentist you floss, now and then.
Where were the children when you were smoking marijuana?
Hear that noise at the end? I don't know if Ray's being disdainful of his children or if he's being disdainful of Judge Judy, but what you can clearly hear is that he only cares about himself. April explains that when she and Ray smoked, the kids would be visiting their dad, who I'm only now learning wasn't Ray.
Are you telling me, Miss Butler, that you never smoked marijuana while your children were sleeping in their rooms?
There's no good answer for April here. If she says no, she never did it, Judy will call her a liar. If she says yes, she has done it, Judy will call her a bad mother. She should just do what Ray did.
No, I wouldn't. No, we never did drugs around my children.
Judy considers April for a long time, but we'll never know what the judge might have said because Ray steps in with this.
Your Honor, that's not true.
Ray keeps surprising me. Not always in a good way. Maybe not ever in a good way. But like Legos left on the carpet at night, Ray keeps surprising me. Judy, also in a bit of surprise, decides to move on, for now at least, to return to the topic of the spilled paint. They say you shouldn't cry over spilled milk, but no one ever said anything about not suing over spilled paint.
And according to you, he took some of your clothes and sopped up the paint.
Were involved.
Well,
the way April puts it makes it sound like Ray and the couches were in cahoots, conspiring together to tie-dye her leather jacket.
Maybe we were.
Judy tries to get April to concede that the paint spilling was an accident, as she herself wrote in her initial complaint.
What if he wasn't throwing them around like a football player all through the house?
I don't understand this line of argument. You were the one who called it an accident to begin with. If you thought he was careless or negligent, like a football player who, mistaking the ball, tries to throw a can of Sherwin-Williams, you should have written that in your complaint. Ray is, virtually by default, unlikable, but I'm finding it harder and harder to like April either.
now, what I don't understand is after you had this major argument where he sucked up the paint with your clothes and you were really arguing loudly with each other, he left, but then you moved back together again.
According to April, it wasn't love that brought them back together again under the same roof.
He lost his job for fighting, and he came to me crying, saying that
Your Honor, that's not even the
wanted
same
me back.
At last, Judy puts her foot down on Ray and his interruptions. Kind of.
Mr. Torres.
During that time.
Mr. Torres.
Yes.
Do I look to you like I run my shop?
Yeah. Huh? Wait.
I legitimately wouldn't know how to answer that question if it were posed to me. Do you look like you run your shop? Like oil changes or bandsaws? If I were Ray, I just would have said. We go to a commercial break, and at last we get a Jerry Bishop voiceover.
Love turned violent.
Yeah, that's what you should have said about 7 minutes ago, Jerry. Were you maybe caught in traffic in the valley like April, practicing your love turned violent line in the rearview mirror, looking up at the Getty Center, wondering if maybe you should have pursued your true passion, robbing museums? And coming back from the break, I feel like Jerry Bishop went a little bit overboard trying to make up for lost time.
She loved him. He beat her. Now she wants to get even.
I don't know if she wants to get even, per se, but she does want money for her couches and clothes, both of which Judy seems reluctant to consider. So hey, I don't know, maybe she does want to get even.
Exactly.
Back to the relationship between April and Ray. April says that Ray returned back to her and that he declared himself something of a new man.
He said that, he wanted me back, and he was, done with all his usage of of partying.
Isn't it crazy how today, how in much of the United States, all that usage of partying is now not only legal, but socially acceptable? New York, LA, DC. People usage of partying all over the place. They prescribe usage of partying for kids with epilepsy. Times really have changed. April took him at his word and let him back in her life.
That was very foolish of you.
And that is a patented Jwat fee. Jwat fee. JWATFI. A Judy well after the fact insult. Whereas some people would take the Jwat fee and move on, April takes something of a stand.
Under the circumstances of what I gave up, I've ruined my credit from moving out on my 6-month lease. And my children and me are homeless right now because of everything that I put on the line for him.
I see what she's saying, and I empathize with her. But everything she said only strengthens Judy's argument that it was foolish. Foolish and tragic. Foolish and unfortunate. Foolish and destructive. But if I'm Judy, I'm still feeling like I wasn't wrong by saying it was foolish. Judy, satisfied that her point was made and that her Jwat fee was not nullified, wants to get to the topic of the assault. April had been living in the new house with Ray for 3 weeks at the time of the incident. She provides pictures of what she looked like after the assault, plus the police report.
Mr. Torres, why don't you tell me why you assaulted her?
Once again, a question with no good answer. It's a fair question. It's one Judy should ask. It's one that I suppose Ray deserves the chance to answer. But what kind of answer would convince Judy that his actions were justified? What kind of answer would make Judy say, you know what, you were right to hit her, and you shouldn't have to go to jail for it? Maybe there's a golden, magical answer that justifies domestic violence. I can't imagine what it is, though.
You admit that you punched her in the face and that her lip broke.
Ray alleges that it was April who was the violent one when they had been fighting earlier in the day.
Okay.
We see a few Polaroids of April's injury as Ray provides this voiceover.
I left the residence. She was assaulting me.
How was she assaulting you, sir?
She was hitting on me.
Ignoring Ray's unfortunate wording here, he says that she was hitting him, scratching him, and tore the shirt off his back. All of this is possible. Even though Ray has at least 80, 90 pounds on April, she certainly could have done all of these things to him. But that doesn't justify going back later and hitting her. Self-defense has a statute of limitations. Upon getting back to the house at 10:30 that night, Ray says they were fighting and wrestling on the floor, but Amber remembers it differently. Amber is not her name. April is her name. April remembers it differently.
I walked into the house and I was laying on the bed. It's 10:30 at night. I've got 4 kids there.
1, 2, 3, 4.
April quickly clarifies that it was 3 kids, her 3 kids, plus a nephew, because Judge Judy was momentarily just as confused as I am how we suddenly had a new kid in the situation.
He walks in and screams, "Get the out."
This seems like a really, really crappy day to have your nephew over.
And he came over and he sat on the bed and he started pinching my leg really hard.
I didn't expect that to be the first thing he did. It's not the least likely thing he could have done. That probably involves $240 worth of pudding and 2 guys named Barry and Levon, but still, leg pinching was not what I had as Ray's first move. April says that at this point she slapped Ray in the face and asked him what his problem was.
And that's when he started going off on me, closed fist.
April says that Ray then hit her 15 to 20 times, causing the aforementioned lumps all over her head. All the while, Ray asserts again and again that none of what April says is true.
I got taken away in an ambulance, Ray.
Ray saying this part isn't true, seems a little silly because it'd be pretty easy to objectively confirm if someone had or hadn't been taken away in an ambulance, regardless of whether they were truly injured or not.
She knows that ain't true.
Judy's kind of lost control of the courtroom, but I think it's better this way. Without Judy's theatrics, without her grandstanding, we actually get to hear the 2 parties to the case speak a little bit. And we're rewarded with unprompted statements like this.
I mean, I made the worst mistake of my life, hitting her, and I am truly sorry for that.
I'm not saying I believe Ray feels this way, but I am saying that in other cases, in other episodes, Ray wouldn't have even had the chance to say it at all. Judy would have gone off on some tangent about how she pinches, he pinches, we all pinch, pinching, pinch hitter, hey, batter, pinching, what's the big deal? Ray concedes that he's truly sorry and that he did injure her, despite very recently and very frequently saying that what April said was a lie.
You're all over the place. I don't know what you're trying to say.
April says that her children suffer from nightmares from the incident, to which Ray argues that he's done more for the kids than anyone else. Maybe. But maybe he's also given them more nightmares than anyone else. Both of those things can be true.
The person I'm most sympathetic with, the people are most sympathetic with your kids.
Yeah, but that might just be because both April and Ray suck.
Yes, probably. But we have more important things to talk about.
You allowed yourself to remain in a situation that was not only good for you, but was terrible for your children.
And her nephew, who really, really wishes he had other friends to hang out with that night.
And you kept them like a yo-yo. You kept bringing them back and forth and back and forth. I mean...
April, in tears, says that she just wants to make the kids' lives right now. It might be too late for that. I mean, I don't think they've had the worst of lives, and I don't think they're destined for squalor. But you and Ray, you kind of screwed up a lot. And I don't think getting money for your damaged couch is going to make their lives right anyway.
Yes, sir.
Since this incident, she's returned to my address 3 times. We've had consensual sex on 14th, 15th, and the 19th of August.
Well, yeah, having that in public also won't make the kids' lives any better. If you are truly concerned with the well-being of your kids, going on Judge Judy is almost never the answer. April says it's untrue. She and Ray argue over each other for a moment or two before we move to Judge Judy's ruling, which both couldn't come soon enough and almost definitely will satisfy no one.
You have not, quite frankly, at least during the past year, put your children's welfare before your own social happiness.
Let me again also advocate for the nephew. He really got screwed here. Judy says that she believes Ray did damage some of April's property by trying to soak up the paint, but that it's not, quote, the gravamen of this complaint. I checked, it's a word.
The heart of this complaint is the injury that you caused her on that day.
April tries to chime in that he is also responsible for the damage done to her children, but Judy rebukes her, saying that they're both responsible for the damage done to the kids. Now this one's a bit of a tongue twister. Judy says she doesn't believe either of them when they say they weren't doing drugs while the kids were in the house.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Here's the thing, minor correction, Judy. Ray said they were doing drugs. It was one of those rare Ray moments of honesty that I'm still trying to wrap my head around. He's got these absolutely blasted out crazy eyes. So I think everything he says is part of some kind of Machiavellian or at the very least Charlie Sheenian crazed plot. And admitting to the drug use must also just be a part of that. Judy eventually rules in favor of April for the damages done to her in the amount of $2,500.
That's her justice, I guess, and that's justice, right?
Is it too late for Judy to not give April anything? She can still punish Ray by all means. And maybe there's like a direct line she can just give it to the kids, but April is just so...
No, I don't, because I could have took him for a lot more than that under his homeowner's insurance.
You got lucky, State Farm. You dodged a bullet named April.
He's going to jail tomorrow. My birthday present, Ray. Bye.
April says this while waving goodbye, thus proving that even losers win sometimes. In our second case, Charles Lanfried bought Ruby Washington a ticket to, quote, get out of town. However,
he may be the one who was taken for a ride.
And it wasn't a piggyback ride. Probably.
Would have been nice to hear you say that a minute ago.
Judy starts off by saying it doesn't seem like a very complicated case. However, I have faith that between the plaintiff, the defendant, and at least one witness I'm seeing, plus of course Judy, we can certainly find ways to complicate things. According to Charles, Ruby was in an abusive relationship and was looking for a way to leave town with her kids. Charles knows Ruby through his friend Nicole, who I'm thinking is the witness sitting with him.
She needed airline tickets fast. She didn't have the money. You lent her $714 for her kids.
Ruby says that that's not correct. Maybe. I'm actually having a little trouble figuring out what she's saying, but maybe it was supposed to be for 2 of her 3 kids, not all 3 and not her. Regardless, I'm sure we'll have a lot of talking that never really clears up that minor detail. Anyway, Charles wants his money back.
And I want it now.
Your Honor, he did not lend me any money.
Judy asks for Ruby's rundown of what happened, but before we get her explanation, she provides this bit of helpful background.
Charles had this thing for Nicole. Charles tried to buy Nicole. He tried to buy her family.
Okay. For those at home, this is an uncomfortable way that Ruby put it because Charles is an old white man and Nicole is a young black woman. And now we have Charles portrayed as a man who tries to buy people.
We're not supposed to do that, right?
Now he's an old, sad-looking white man. Nervous, jelly-face, ghostly pale, ill at ease. He looks like old cottage cheese come to life. But still, he's been accused of buying people. Ruby, Nicole's sister-in-law, says that Charles never told her it was a loan. She then describes an incident with Nicole that, whether it's actually related to the case or not, I'm very excited to hear about.
Okay, she locked me in her house because she didn't want me to be with her brother.
Right? This sounds interesting. An adult woman being locked in another woman's house. Tawdry, but interesting.
That's getting too complicated for me.
They should call her Judge Prudy. We get some admittedly confusing back and forth between Nicole and Ruby about who had an argument with Ruby's boyfriend, the one who presumably was abusive towards Ruby.
She had an argument with my boyfriend.
Somebody had an argument with your boyfriend.
She had an argument with my boyfriend. No, you had an argument with my boyfriend because he broke your window.
Damnation!
Judy's losing control of the courtroom again, with Nicole yelling at Ruby from her witness seat. The judge is forced to drop the L word to try to bring some kind of decorum back to the court.
Because you went to jail.
Hey, ladies.
Remembering that Charles is also in the courtroom, Judy chastises him for getting involved with either of one of them to begin with, a sentiment that Charles nods along with, sadly and dispiritedly. We now get to hear from Nicole in an official capacity, as Judge Judy has asked her to step up to the mic, relieving her of the burden of having to yell across poor bedraggled Charles. When asked about the airline tickets that Charles bought for Ruby, Nicole provides a rambling answer involving kids, Ruby's boyfriend, a car that Ruby did or did not give to her boyfriend, Nicole's job, Nicole staying in LA, and a hairdresser.
And my head is getting full of facts.
Eventually, Nicole says that she was there when Ruby came to Charles and asked him to loan her the money for the ticket. Ruby says that she, Ruby herself, wasn't there when she, Ruby, asked for the tickets because she, Ruby, was at work. I'm sorry to belabor the pronouns here, but in short, I think Ruby was saying that she was not there to ask for the money to pay for the tickets because she was at work.
Excuse me, you left work early, honey.
And then things devolve again after that.
Don't
Listen,
lie.
Nicole,
Don't lie.
Listen to me.
Excuse me,
Listen
I
to
am
me.
talking
Tell
to
me
the
what.
judge.
Tell me what.
Get up again. That's all that's going to happen.
Miss Washington,
please.
I want to get back to you.
I'm
Miss
the one that went to
Washington.
jail.
I had a feeling we could make things complicated if we all just came together and tried hard enough.
Went to jail and was going to stay in jail. I went to jail. I went to jail. We can handle it now.
Kids, behave. We all went to jail. Nicole is sent back to her seat, though I think that will only slightly hamper both her willingness and ability to argue with Ruby.
It's going to be very easy. This is going to be a very easy case.
Keep telling yourself that.
I guess. Yeah, easy in the sense that if Nicole and Ruby murder each other, then Charles wins by default. If you wind up with two corpses on the floor of your fake courtroom, things kind of become easier. Judy asks Ruby plainly if she took the money from Charles. Ruby says no. However, when Judy asks who paid for the tickets, Ruby confirms that it was Charles.
Our judgment is, in this case, is for the plaintiff for the amount of $714. You people have to learn how to behave yourselves in the court.
With this case wrapped up, I suppose we can all go on now, peacefully, maybe even as friends.
I think she was slut and I think he buys her.
Now, that's not nice. Even in 1996, slut-shaming isn't nice. Ruby says that Charles has bought Nicole a convertible. He paid for her tennis registration and signed for her apartment lease. No wonder he needs the $714 back.
She's a slut and he's her pimp. Thank you.
If true, I believe the word Ruby was looking for was sex worker, not slut. And now it's time for what you've all been waiting for. It's time for me to judge Judy. The cases may be different, but the rules are the same. I judge Judy based on a set of completely arbitrary criteria that really comes down to this. If she did her job, if she provided justice, she's innocent. And if she didn't, she's guilty. This, my friends, is the Judy I want more of. We got 4 to 5 real characters who are given the breathing space to shine. You know why? Because none of them had the judge's robe on. Judy stepped to the side. We got the plaintiff's stories. We got the defendant's version of events. We had dramatics, we had tears, we had yelling. All without Judy needing to center the attention on her. I wish more episodes and more cases could be like this. I think Judy got the decisions largely right. I mean, I wish April didn't get money, but you know, whatever. You can't get around that. And also, I don't really know what was going on with Charles and Ruby and Nicole. So, okay, maybe the actual rulings weren't even germane. Judy managed to stay out of the way, and I think we got a more entertaining episode because of it. And for that reason, today, Judy's innocent. That noise means it's hangman time, and we're not talking about the hangman you were playing when you should have been learning how to parallel park. No, this is a hangman with stakes. This week I'm putting daylight savings time on the line. That's right, if I win, daylight savings time will continue. Clocks back, clocks forward, you know the drill. Forever. We're never getting rid of it. But if I lose, it's over. No more daylight savings time. We go back to standard time, and all you whiners can finally have what you think you want. As always, I'm using hangmanwords.com, and this week I'm going back to their music words list. As a reminder, I can make 6 incorrect guesses, 6 letters that aren't in the word until I lose. And finally, I know this doesn't work for an audio medium. I acknowledge that, and I move on. Okay, so we have 2 words. The first one is 6 letters. The second one is 8, I believe. So let's start with, I'm gonna go crazy and go with U, as in Uranus. There is no U, probably a stupid guess. So now I have a head and I have 5 more incorrect guesses. I'll go a little bit more obvious and say E. There's 1 E, so blank, blank, E, blank, 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 space, blank, 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 blank. Let's try N, as in new. There are 2 N's. So none of the first word, and then blank, 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 N, blank, 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 N. What about R? There are 2 R's. Blank R-E, blank, 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 space, blank R, blank N, blank, 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 N. Let's keep it going with T. There's a T, so blank R-E-T, blank, blank, and then nothing in the second word. What about B, as in Barbra Streisand? There's no B. So now I have a torso, and I have 4 incorrect guesses. Let's try L, like the letter in the alphabet. There's 1 L. Blank R-E-T, blank, blank, space, blank R, space, blank N, space, blank L. Nope, I think I said space a bunch of times, so you get the idea. I have an R, an N, an L, and N, blanks in between. Let's try O, as in Oliver. There's no O. So I have 3 more incorrect guesses. Right now we only have the 1 vowel, so there has to be an A and there has to be an I. I'm gonna start with A. Oh, okay. So now we have A-R-E-T, space A. Guys, keep saying space, I mean blank. A-R-E-T, blank A, space, blank R-A-N, blank L, blank N. Remember when I said this is bad for an audio medium? It's true. Anyway, this is obviously Aretha Franklin, so I'm gonna guess H, and then I'm gonna guess F, and then I'm gonna guess K, and I'm going to guess I, and it is Aretha Franklin. I'm really glad it's not Autumn Schenk, but it turns out, you're welcome everybody, we get daylight savings time. And I wanna be very specific here. We're going to continue switching between daylight savings time and standard time. It's not that we're gonna be in permanent daylight savings. We're gonna have standard time, then we're gonna switch in March and switch in November. That's gonna continue no matter what you losers complain about. With our last few seconds, we've got time for an out of context quote from Judge Judy. What women will do to have a mate always amazes me. That's it. Like, fornicate, share, comment, and please, whatever you do, don't try to clean up spilled paint with clothes your sister just got you.